I just want to welcome everyone to the Audit and Finance Committee 2024 agency budgets review. Department heads, we're going to make sure you'll be asked a series of questions related to your budget information that you have pre-submitted to this committee for review. And I ask that you please answer as completely as you can. If you have answers to our questions that require more than a brief explanation, please say so. And then we'll be able to provide a more thorough response to the committee in writing via our legislative budget at albanycountyny.com email, which you've also been provided. Also, in order to complete our examination of your budgets, it may be necessary to forward you some additional questions after tonight's hearing. Now, what I would like for you to do after we take our attendance and acknowledge all of the members that are present, you'll begin with a brief summary of your budget of no more than 3 minutes and how it meets your department's needs. All right, please take attendance.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham?
Present.
Peter? I don't even know why I waited on
Berg,
I know, he's usually right there. Bergdorf is also on his way. Clay?
Here.
Grimm?
Here.
Ray Joyce? Lakakis? Yes. Mayo?
Here.
And Camiso?
Here.
Okay.
Quorum.
Yes, I would also like to acknowledge our chairman, Mr. Joyce, is here. Joanne Cunningham. I would also like to acknowledge our majority leader is here, Mr. Feeney, Carolyn McLaughlin, Mr. Epicoro, Mr. Ward, Ms. Patricia Lockhart, Bill Ricard, Bob Beston, Ellen Rosano, and Matt Miller. Did I leave anyone out? It's not my intention. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with my opening questions to all the department heads. And I'm hoping that, what I'm hoping is that your presentation will include some of these questions that I might possibly have, okay? And that is, are you able to provide the same level of service that you currently do with your proposed budget? Number 2, speak to any areas of major reductions within your department and how they impact programming. Are there any impacts to the vulnerable populations you serve resulting from reductions? And overall, are you satisfied with the resources? Oh, you guys are one. Provided to you by the department in the executive's proposed 2024 budget. All right. Mr. Lynch, it's good to see you this evening. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you.
I'm ready for your presentation.
All right, very good. Obviously, you know them, but I'll introduce to my left is Michael McLaughlin, our Director of Policy and Intergovernmental Affairs, and to my right is David Riley, our Commissioner of Management and Budget. I'll do a very quick overview of the executive budget. A lot of this should be repetitive for this body. The total budget is $819 million. It's an increase of 8.3% in comparison to last year. The levy, however, stays the same. It's the 3rd straight year we've held the line on the levy. The effective tax rate is reduced to from $3.17 per 1,000 in assessed value to $2.84 per 1,000. That is a 10.4% reduction. I would note that since 2014, we have reduced from $3.95 down to its current $2.84, a total of a 28.23% reduction of our tax rate. Highly due to new construction as well as increased valuations in existing real estate. It's also something that we're really proud of in the executive's office, and I think the legislature should join that we have the 10th lowest tax rate in New York State. That's an impressive number, and it's something, like I said, that we're very thrilled with, and that's per numbers provided by the Office of State Controller. Sales tax forecast in this budget is up to $365 million. It's an increase of last year of 11.9%. This year, we're outperforming the budgeted amount, and I know that Dave Riley will be presenting to you later this evening, and we'll address more fully in that. There are some key highlights that I want to address. We have funding, $6 million in funding for the Sustainable Technology and Green Energy Act. That's the STAGE Act that was passed by this legislature. We're already seeing a significant return on the investment from the previous year. Last year was $6 million as well. Some of the key economic development highlights that I'd like to touch on, where this money is being utilized is again, to increase the development, create new jobs, et cetera, in the green market. We have landed over the last year plus Plug Power, which over a 5-year period will create over 1,600 new jobs for Albany County. Just last week, we announced the expansion of Regeneron in Menands, something that again is going to increase the number of good-paying, high-paying jobs in Albany County. We received an announcement last week from the governor about a significant amount of funding for our ports. Specifically, I want to address the Port of Clemens, where there'll be further announcements in the very near future of what size investment that brings. We're building something here. We're building an ecosystem for green energy. It is, as a result, creating a lot of job opportunity and growth, which again increases our tax base, something that we should all be proud of. That's based upon funding and initiatives such as this. The $6 million for the STAGE Act will provide us, again, more funding to continue to go out and recruit. I know that our Advance Albany County Alliance on a regular basis receives inquiries from companies around the world trying to find out if there's a way to do business here. And that's a complete change of where we were just a few years ago. So something that, again, that's $6 million for that. There's an additional $3 million to the Albany County Improvement Initiative funding. That was in the budget last year. We've utilized that funding in a bipartisan way in partnership with the county legislature to provide funding for county fire towers, veteran organizations, funding for playgrounds, and the creation of some additional funding for homeless shelters. So that's back in the budget for this year. There's also an additional $1 million for funding to support the arts. This was an initiative that was presented at the County Executive State of the County last spring or late winter. This is going to be a subcommittee that has stood up through the Advance Albany County Alliance. There's been some media surrounding the significance of making sure that there's funding for the arts and what it means as an economic driver for communities and for the county. So that's in there. There's $400,000 in operational funding for the Advance Albany County Alliance. There's another $250,000 of operational funding for the Albany County Land Bank. There's $250,000 included to fight food insecurity. Also increased funding for expanding on and growing our mental health initiatives, Accord, Motor, Street Psychiatry, 3 successful initiatives that with more funding can hopefully have greater impact across our county. We have $100,000 in seed funding in a partnership that was brought to us by Chairman Joyce. This is to stand up a program to address high rates of suicide among veterans. That's going to be, I think, dubbed the program March On. And that's something that I know the executive and the chairman have had a number of conversations on, so we're happy to have that in the executive budget as well. As far as positions, we have a 3% for all non-union positions across the board. There are very few exceptions. This is in line to, as you are all well aware, we have 19 bargaining units within Albany County. 18 of them are resolved currently, and this is in line with some of the growth within those contracts. A lot of 3% were negotiated and signed and executed. This keeps our non-union staff in line with the unionized workforce within the county. There are a few positions that I will highlight that are beyond the 3%. The vast majority of the administrative support positions in Albany County, there was no parity between them. So a administrative assistant within Department A could be completely different salary than Department B. We tried to bring a level of parity amongst that. That's not an inconsistent measure that we've taken over the years. We've tried to create parity across departments by title. This is an effort to do that. So you'll see within the budget a lot of adjustments when it comes to the administrative staff. There are something that he didn't ask for, nor did his deputy ask for, but based upon the expanded workload from our Commissioner of Management and Budget, we've actually dumped more responsibility on management and budget than ever before. Not only the current responsibilities, but we've created a grants management team, a data analytics team. We've asked them to aggressively invest our proceeds from different funding sources, and because of that, we have put in, and again, without the request of the Commissioner of Management and Budget, we put a request in for an additional increased budget amount beyond the 3%. County executive is the other. There's a 12% request for increase in salary. This is done at the beginning of the term. 4 years ago, we presented a request for the county executive. There was an accompanying resolution passed by the body that set it out over a course of 4 years. This was based upon conversations with the other countywide electeds that are also seeking re-election this term as a starting point for negotiations with this body. So you'll see the 12% for the other county electeds that will be presenting tonight that are up for re-election this year. And I think, Madam Chair, I'll leave it at there if there are any questions.
All right, I'll address the members now. Are there any members of the committee that have questions?
I do, Madam Chair, but I think we're going to hear from the Commissioner first, though. Is he giving us a rundown or no?
Excuse me?
Is the Commissioner going to give?
No, they have their own.
Because I got something sent to me today.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, I have some questions, yeah, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Grant.
I want, the 12% pay hike, it's up front this year for the 3 electeds. That was not the case 4 years ago. And I understand you have to pass a resolution prior to the oncoming term. But the question is, what's the rationale to provide 12% up front? Because that's not what you did with all the unions. In the non-unions, if they were given a raise, it was 3, 3, 3, typically 3, 3, 3, 3, extended out. It's a big difference when you have a 12% increase up front versus extended over 4 years. So I wonder what the rationale was for that.
So the rationale behind the 12 is that multiplier of 3 times the 4 years. That gives you the 12%. If you look back at the requested amount for the executive 4 years ago, it was all requested up front, and then there was the accompanying legislation that broke it out over years. That's a decision that the legislature has to make. So the request is similar. What the request is, it gives you the target of what the proper adjustment should be over the term. You can't go back in year 2, 3, or 4 and make a request for an increase. So that's why it's done on the front end.
Well, it's just important to understand the difference. For example, with the 12% up front, the county executive would get an additional $77,000 in extra pay. If it's spread over 4 years, the extra pay would be $20,000. For the controller, $64,000 as opposed to $16,000. And for the sheriff, $71,000 opposed to $18,000. It's big money. And Mike, it's not that they aren't devoted or capable people. It's inconsistent with the way you treated all the other rank and file folks, because when you extended 3-3-3-3, that's a way of managing cost, and that's not being applied to the 3 electeds.
So I haven't done that math. And
Well, I calculated it
No,
myself.
that's fine. What I'm saying is we can't address it any other way. It has to be presented at the beginning of the term.
So you're saying that the legislature could break it down in 4 years?
You could, you did it 4 years ago. I don't know what the body's going to do. The request is 12% based upon the term starting January 1, because you can't by law go back in and make a request otherwise. So if it's not asked for on the front end, it's not
Let me
asked
ask you
for.
about the fund balance.
Mr.
Because-
Grant,
Yeah,
we want to make sure that everyone, there's a lot of people here.
okay.
So.
Well, I'll come back later, it's okay.
All right.
Thank
so
you, Madam Chair.
Do I have any other questions? Okay, Mr. Mayo.
At the end, you mentioned plug power. Do you know if they're still on track to hire 1,600 people? Because I know their stock price is down like 90% in the past 2 years, so.
So I do believe that they're still on, and we have metrics and clawback provisions. They've met them thus far. To date, well, I don't have the most recent, but about a month ago or so, they had onboarded between 500 and 600 new employees. So they're really doing a good job in fulfilling their obligation from a onboarding process.
Thanks.
Sure. And I mean, the number being 1,600 plus over 5 years was aggressive, and they said they can do it, and they're on pace to do so.
Any other members of the legislature? Okay. I do have one question while people are thinking. Are there any specific sections of the budget that are impacted as part of the county's equity agenda?
So, yes. The simple answer is yes. The equity agenda is a constantly evolving and working plan. And from a budgetary perspective, I don't think that what you'll see is one line item that addresses goals of the equity agenda. What you have is goals that through implementation receive the necessary funding annually. So, for instance, you have, certain projects that require ADA compliance. We're not going to have a separate budget line for that particular project. What you're going to have is it rolled within the project cost. We have, onboarding processes where we want to make sure that we're reaching a larger pool of people. That's just done with the funding that is allowed and presented within the annual budget. So it's, yes, it's impactful. Everything that we pass and you pass is somehow tied to us continuing to strive to reach the goals of the equity agenda, if that makes sense. There's not just a singular budgetary line.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the committee? Now, your question is for
Yeah,
Mr. Riley.
it's a budget, okay, yeah. However you want to do it's fine.
Right, yeah, okay. All right, Mr. Ficor.
Yes, there is a reduction, a property tax reduction in your budget. Is that all based on an expanded tax base, property tax base, or is it also dependent on, or does the federal money that we received over the past 2 years factor in, or is it just the tax base expansion?
Dave, you want-
So the tax base itself is our levy divided by, the populace of the county. So since we've kept the levy flat, this is not the third year, it is, the other side of the equation is the growth of the base. So if you've noticed, it was about a 10% increase in the base this year, mostly due to new construction and economic development.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Lynch right now? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Good luck to you.
Yes, Dan.
All right, now we'll move on to our county clerk, Mr. Higley.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Appreciate it very much. And to the distinguished members of the Audit and Finance Committee, I want to thank you for having us tonight to talk about the 2024 budget for the Albany County Clerk's Office and the Albany County Hall of Records. With me here tonight is the Executive Deputy County Clerk, Geraldine Gould, and the Deputy County Clerk at the Hall of Records, Craig Carlson. So with that, I want to thank you very much. Our budget hasn't changed much from 2023 to 2024, to be honest with you. I believe there's only one line item that I've asked for an increase in the budget of $40,000, and that is, the reason why I asked for that request is when Tom Klingen was the county clerk at the time, one of his deputy county clerks retired. He went ahead and made her a part-time deputy county clerk and reduced the salary to $30,000. That individual has now left Albany County Service, and I've asked for the $40,000 to raise that salary to $70,000 so I can put a full-time deputy county clerk in to oversee not only the land records but the court records at the same time. It's an essential item, but it's also a person that will back up our deputy county clerks when they are not in the office for vacation or sick leave or whatever time they're utilizing. So that is the reason why I've requested that additional $40,000. Basically, that is the only line item that I've asked for anything to be increased. I did want to talk a little bit about our shared services programs that we have ongoing with the county clerk's office. Right now, we are working with the town of Guilderland to finish a project for the 2022-2023 year. It was $150,000, of which $75,000 went to the county clerk, and the other $75,000 went to the town of Guilderland. We are finishing that up as we speak. We have also applied for another grant for $150,000 to do a shared services project with the village of Nance. We just recently received notification that has been approved, that $150,000, and they've already distributed $70,000 to the finance department to put into our budget for that purpose. We are waiting on one last final grant that we applied to the Department of State for. The Department of State has a grant funding program, a shared services, for $200,000. So we applied for that $200,000. This is the first time that I have reached out and applied to the Department of State for a grant of any kind at all. Now, this grant would be a shared services program with the city of Waterville. Now, as you can see, all the shared services programs that I've been gearing toward have been going to all the individual municipalities, towns, cities, and villages in Albany County to help them out and to help Albany County out at the same time. So those are the programs that we have ongoing with shared services with the Albany County Clerk's Office. We're very proud of that program, by the way, and we're very proud of the fact that we've been awarded these grants and continue to get awarded these grants due to the hard work and dedication of the staff at the Albany County Clerk's Office. You can see we do have a lot of vacancies. I've been trying my best to fill the vacancies as best I can. Unfortunately, I can't get anybody to work. That's the bottom line. I don't know how else to put it to you. But we've been soliciting people to get resumes for us to see if we can fill these vacancies. We're doing our best. That's all I can tell you as far as the vacancies go. I hate to say this to the legislature, but this is the way it is. People don't want to work for $30,000 a year. And that's the bottom line as a clerk or a laborer. They claim to us that they can make more money working at McDonald's or Burger King than they can in working in my office. So that's the reasoning they give us. They come in for the interview. A lot of them say, "Can I work from home?" And the answer to that is no, because you can't in the county clerk's office. So we lose a lot in that perspective also. But that's the reason why you see so many vacancies in that department, in both departments, and it's sad but true. And we are doing our best, I can tell you that, to fill those vacancies and get the staff back up to what it was before COVID. I think really that's about all I have right now. So I'd like to open up the floor to questions to the legislature.
All right, do we have any members of the legislature of the committee? Any questions right now? All right, if not, I'll begin. Can you discuss the status of e-filing and e-recording operations, and has it helped to reduce walk-in traffic at the clerk's office?
Yes, they both have. Last year, we made e-filing, which is the electronic filing of court records, mandatory for all but 4 case types. So that's reduced a lot of the traffic for the lawyers and the customers. Pro se individuals, however, don't have to e-file, so we still get them coming in trying to file their own documents in paper. E-recording has, since COVID, the land records has increased immensely, where I'd say probably 70% of the documents are now going through e-recording instead of dropping them off in paper. So
We've done everything in our power to to make the Albany County Clerk's Office as accessible to the public as we possibly can. And e-reporting and e-filing certainly has helped us out a whole lot with both of those issues. And that's thanks to the legislature for allowing us to do that, by the way. One other note that I did not mention is, for 2024, we anticipate the total appropriations for our office to be over $2.2 million. We anticipate the revenue to be approximately a little over $3 million. So if all goes well in the market with mortgages and deeds and things like that, and that's where we really fluctuate, because we never know, if the higher the percentages go up, the less people are out there. The lower they go, the more they want to refinance or finance their new homes. So we anticipate maybe a little bit over $770,000 of revenue to Albany County.
Okay, can you please give us an update on the Hall of Records and ongoing filing and space needs for the county?
Space.
Oh, thank you. Right now, we have probably about 115,000 cubic feet of records. We are near full capacity. And it's harder for us to get agencies to destroy their records once their life expectancy is done. We have, each box that comes in, we assign a retention code when it could legally be destroyed. So we have to push the agencies to destroy your records because we're getting full. Yeah.
I mean, we've done everything, the one thing that I'm very on top of is the destruction of records, and to make sure that it's done legally in accordance with the schedule MU1 that we have in place. It's unfortunate, even with today's times of doing scanning and everything, people still like their paper records. And that continues to grow and grow and grow. I'm looking into the future, I can guarantee you that, to see how I can figure out what to do about the storage, the record center. When we built the new one, we added, 35,000
Yeah.
cubic foot of records, and we filled that within 2 years. So, there are ways that I can start thinking about reducing the amount that comes into the record center and that goes out of the record center. But as you heard from Craig, it really relies upon the department heads to work with us on those issues. If they don't work with us and they tell us that we can't destroy it, then we keep it. Most of the stuff that we retain are 7 years up to life. And it's the 7-year stuff, articles, I shouldn't say stuff, I'm sorry. The 7-year articles that are stored in the record center are the ones that people don't want to let go. And if a department head tells me they're not going to let it go, then I have to keep it. So that's the fight we're fighting, and we're doing everything I can to work with agencies and to work with them to, help us out with this, and so that we don't have to look somewhere else for a potential need for further space issues. Because if we need further space issues, we're going to have to spend more money to do that, and I really don't want to do that to the taxpayers of Albany County, to be honest with you. The one that we did do a few years ago, I thought would be plenty for a long, long time to come, but that wasn't the case.
Do any of the members have a question for the county clerk? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
Can I just, I'm not a member of the committee though. That's why I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I could have been clearer. Okay, so now the questions are open to the full body. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairwoman. You said about not being able to hire because of the salary. How many positions are vacant right now?
Currently, we have 7 in the county clerk's office, and then how many vacancies do you have?
We have 5.
12?
So there's 12 positions,
Yeah.
and they're the laborer position or the clerk 1 position, and the starting salary is 30 for the laborer and 31 for the clerk 1.
Do you know how that compares to other counties?
I don't, it's a good question, and I should look into that, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's a good, very good question. Thank you for asking.
On a side note, they're mandated by the union contract. They negotiated the starting salaries. We can't hire any higher.
They
I understand.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Ricard?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Patty, thank you for asking that too, because I was going to ask a similar follow-up question. Aside from just the money, and I've heard this in other committees that I'm on, aside from just the money, is there anything else that would entice people to come or, you know, stay in the employment or new job applicants?
Well, you know what happens to us? What happens to us is we're like a stepping stone. Even in our own county, the clerk one positions are paid higher than what they are in the Albany County Clerk's office. So they come, they work for us for a couple of months, we spend all this time training them to get them into the office, and then they get an offer from another department or another state agency that gives them $5,000 to $7,000 more than they're gonna make for us, and out the door they go. And then that leaves us with the openings that have been created with those 12 positions.
Do you have any ideas on how you could retain those employees, what incentives or whatever?
Well, I can say that a lot of them would be simply more money. But like you heard from Jerry, we're obligated to the CSEA contract, and the CSEA contract states exactly what the starting salaries are,
Okay.
which makes it very difficult to help them out by trying to keep them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Coroner?
Oh, he just answered the question.
Okay, very good. Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you for being here. What are the basic requirements for these entry-level positions?
Well-
Is it high school diploma,
Well,
associates, or?
No,
they've waived a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, civil service, it was a test, but they've been letting us hire provisionally right now because there's not enough people taking the test. But it is, you know, high school diploma or GED, and, you know, just some clerical experience. And our system is based, made directly for the county clerk, so that everything's trained when you get there. You don't have to have a lot of previous knowledge. You know, you learn as you go, so.
Thank you, that's
And
it.
basically, our labor positions at the Hall of Records, you have to have a valid driver's license also.
That's some information that, you know, you could send so we can get it out to
Absolutely,
everyone.
yes.
Okay, and so that can be handled through an email, so that would be great.
We would appreciate it, any help we can get.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Just one quick one. This 30,000 position, is it full-time position?
Yes, it
Yes.
is, with all benefits.
35 hours with full benefits.
Yeah. I don't think any county employee full-time should be getting $30,000 a year. But that's just for, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on now, and we're gonna hear from the coroner's office.
Good evening, thank you for having us here. I'm sorry I'm a little bit under the weather, I've been a little sick these last few days, but we have all four of our coroners here. This whole budget thing kind of got dumped into my lap about a month ago when one of our other coroners abruptly just decided to resign. So this is my first time really getting involved in the budget process, so I'm kind of new to this, but our office really cannot control the number of cases that we do each year, the number of autopsies that we do each year. So that's really fixed. But what we are asking for in here is just some help. This job I've been doing this for 35 years, and over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the job has really gotten more complicated, more involved, more numbers. And I've looked at other counties. I didn't get Schenectady County because they just couldn't give me any. I got their budget, but they couldn't give me any much more information. But just take Rensselaer County, for example. And we have asked for some raises, we've asked for some deputies. Rensselaer County has 3 full-time death investigators, in addition to a full-time medical examiner. Their death investigators, which do the exact same job that we do, make $70,000 a year. We make $27,000 a year. They have, in addition to the 3 full-time death investigators, they have 4 part-timers. So none of their death investigators work any weekends. They only work an 8-hour shift. So our salaries are so far behind them. Saratoga County, they have 2 full-time coroners, 4 deputy coroners. They do 1/3 the volume of cases that we do. Rensselaer County does less than half the volume that we do. They're all making more money than us. We're not asking for the world, but we would like to just get a little more equitable here. And even if the salaries wouldn't come up, if we could just get some deputies in here to give us a hand. Our weekends begin at Friday, 5 p.m. They get off Monday, 5 a.m. It's a 60-hour shift straight. Over the course of a weekend, I've had as many as 20 deaths. And it's just a lot. And I've been doing this for a long time, and we just kind of let it go. And it's just time for us to bring ourselves into this century.
All right, so all right, the deputy coroners and the salary increase, okay. Can you do this?
I think you'd have to look at the coroner's office like you look at your police department or your fire department. We have to be on call 365 days, 24 hours a day. And you're asking 4 people to do that. That means there's no holidays, there's no weekends. It's 24/7, 365. You divide that up, that's almost 2,200 hours a man. It's a lot. And the job doesn't end when your shift ends, because you have a lot of cases that follow over with police departments, autopsies, grieving families that you still have to take care of. There's a lot of days where I'll be off shift, but spend a good part of my day, half the day or better, just following up on cases. So the workload is immense. And you have to remember, Albany Medical Center is a trauma center. So they bring in a lot of people from other places. Once they die in Albany Medical Center, they become a coroner case here in the county. And there's quite a few cases. And he's not kidding. I think this weekend I was on, and I actually did 84 hours straight. And I probably had over 20 hospital cases alone, not counting the out of death. I mean, we're doing over 1,100 cases a year. It's huge.
It's way more than all the other counties around us, and again, we're way lower on the scale. And like you said, people are coming in here from all over the area that comes by med flight into Albany Medical Center. We have a lot of drug overdoses. Those cases have gone way up, way up. COVID, yeah, we had more, but I say the drug overdoses and these outside cases. One thing that, and I don't really know what happened, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but our former coroner, whose sister-in-law was our secretary, for some reason, I found this out at our very first meeting because I questioned it. We're supposed to be getting reimbursed $1,700 every time we do an autopsy on an inmate. For some reason, the secretary stopped submitting any paperwork in 2018. So I had our current secretary go back to 2018, and she's uncovered, I'm not sure exactly, but it's in the neighborhood of 25 cases at $1,700 a case. And we're trying to recoup all that. So now you're looking $45,000 or thereabouts. And from now on, this year and going forward, we should be submitting these things. And I don't know why it stopped. I wasn't involved in that end of it at that time. So we are going to be able to generate some income to recoup some of the things that we're asking for, where we weren't recouping anything since 2018.
Well, I'm sure we'll be looking for a report on what you just brought out to us, okay, and everyone will have an opportunity to review that.
We've talked with the Commission of Corrections, because that's where the money comes from. Because anybody who's an inmate is required to have an autopsy. So we're trying to get the numbers together, and I'm hoping that we can recoup those lost funds.
Okay. All right. We'll be looking forward to that report. I have a question. Can you please explain our current agreement with Ellis Hospital for the services and the possibility of a regional facility?
The current agreement with Ellis came about because Albany Med, number one, wanted to shut their morgue down. So we had a meeting with them, and they decided that they would leave it open. However, they were going to double their fees. So they went from approximately $1,000 a case, they doubled it up to $2,000 a case. One of our doctors, Dr. Ng, works out of Ellis Hospital, and he offered us the same price that Albany Med was charging us. So that's how we ended up at Ellis Hospital. A regional facility, I brought it up before, and every time I have, I've been told that it's going to cost over $5 million to start a regional facility. I don't know the exact cost, and I don't know where that figure came from, but that's what I've heard. I personally think that a regional facility would, it may cost some money to start, but here in Albany County, we could attract cases from all over, Saratoga, Schenectady, Rensselaer uses Albany Medical Center. And we don't even use Albany Medical Center, we're Albany County.
All right. I'd like to open it up to members of the committee, and after the members of the committee, I'll open it up to the rest of the legislature. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions right now, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I want to know a little bit more about this. Didn't bill for autopsies? So you would do an inmate autopsy and the state owes you money, or we just didn't bill the state?
Exactly.
Is there any way we can recoup that money?
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think if you want more money, it'd be helpful if you can actually
We're
create some
trying,
revenue.
we're trying, we've already contacted.
We just had a case yesterday out of Cooksaki Correctional, and that's going to be an autopsy, so that's one of our first cases that's going to get billed directly to.
I knew that we were supposed to be getting reimbursed, and the first time I met with the budget committee, because he said, well, you guys don't generate any income, and I said, well, what about the income that we get from autopsies from the state inmates, or it could be any inmates? And he said, well, you're not showing any. So that's when I had the secretary, who's new, go back and look, and she says, no bills have been submitted since 2018.
Any idea how much money that is?
It's in the neighborhood of $45,000.
45 grand.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee members? Yes. Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just some clarification, looking through the budget. Last year's office eliminated the clerk one part-time position of $15,000 and added a temporary helpline of $22,500. This year's proposal reverses that budget change and restores the position. Is there any explanation for that?
The only explanation is that our secretary cannot take any time off whatsoever. So in order for her to be able to take any kind of time off, we need somebody there when she's not.
I think it's the only county office that serves the public that has one employee to meet the public, and that's the secretary. And the workload is increasing. And families call, funeral directors call, police departments call. You know, they want answers. They don't want to have to wait or leave a number. So in order to give the better service, we need to have that other person.
We take calls, I don't know too many other, I don't know if you could call other county departments at midnight or over the weekend or 2 a.m. in the morning. We answer the phone, all 24/7.
Right, it gets forwarded on the weekends to that.
One other thing, Antonio, you want to bring up about Ellis?
Well, one of the problems that we're having right now, and it's a major problem, it's going to continue to get worse, is that a lot of individuals, when death occurs, obviously they're not expecting it, but they don't have the finances. So what happens right now, probably at Ellis, I must have maybe 15 people sitting up there that have been sitting since January. We have to go through social services, but it's a whole process, I guess, they're trying to work through. But
we need somebody to step up to.
We need someone to assist us in it because we have decedents that go unclaimed, especially drug overdoses, that have just been sitting there. And it's getting worse and worse and worse to the point where we have to beg funeral homes to take the bodies, but then they're not getting paid. So
And they're not getting paid for months and months and months because Albany County Social Services won't approve it.
So that's a major problem that's been going on.
And the funeral homes won't take the cases because every time they take a case, they got to buy the grave, they got to buy the vault, they got to buy the casket, they got to dig the grave, they got to put out thousands of dollars, and they don't get it back. And you can't expect funeral homes to lose that kind of money time after time and maybe not even get paid at all, or have to wait 6 months to get your money back. So they just say, don't bother calling me anymore. So we have bodies stacking up at the morgue.
And so what happens is when, unknowing family goes to the funeral homes are starting to say, no, we don't accept social services, we don't accept social services. So what does the family do? They take their rent money, their car payments, and the next thing you know, I find out, oh, I was evicted because I had to use this. So it's a vicious cycle that's increasing. I don't know what's going on with social services, but it's a major problem. We have body, I don't even know how many we have. That's how bad it's getting.
Okay, thank you. I understand that we are aware of the issue that you're talking about right now. But as far as social services and the payment to a lot of the funeral homes when they take county cases. Right? Do you have another question?
Yeah, I just have one more follow-up question. You alluded to, seeing an epidemic now with drug addiction, but our cases are up something like 30% in the last 10 years. I know we have a regional trauma center in Albany Med. What's driving that increase in cases?
The opioid cases?
No, it's 40% increase in all cases. Your
Again,
workload
a lot
is
of
down
them,
40%
the
10 years.
opioid deaths, they're fentanyl is killing people. They're using heroin and it's mixed with fentanyl, it's killing them. And a lot of the other ones are coming in from out of the area and accident trauma victims.
So a combination of the,
Yeah.
okay, so.
And then you had COVID, but again, I don't think COVID was a big number compared to
It's just a
those.
very cheap drug to get.
Oh, yeah.
And
We get them in
the
rations.
problem with it is it's so deadly that just a little pinhead of a piece of fentanyl, I've had in the last 2 months, 3 people with the needle still in them. That's how quickly it kills them. And you have to wear special gloves because if you get it on you while you're trying to remove the body, you'll be the next victim.
I went to a conference and it was out in Syracuse where the police responded to a death scene and the guy had overdosed, but he also was decomposed. So the first thing that the police did when they got there was turn on a fan, and 4 of the police officers were overcome with fentanyl. They all had to be Narcan. So it's very deadly stuff, and that's what's killing the people.
Thank you. Ms. Lakakis?
I wondered if you encountered any resistance to taking people's loved ones to Schenectady?
I hear it all the time. Why do we have to go to Schenectady? And I tell them it's a budgetary issue. Does the county want to double, the fee that we're paying right now? I don't,
You have someone die at Albany Med to go to the morgue, we have to pay $300.
Have them transported.
To have them transported. That doesn't really make much sense, does it?
No.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't know, and I talked to Sean about this a couple of weeks ago. Our office is the only office where, like, when people get raises, only 2 of us get raises. The other 2 don't get the raise. And this happened to me over the course of my career 2 or 3 times. 2 coroners get a raise, and then a couple of years ago it was $5,000, so the other 2 coroners made $10,000 more than I did. And then I got the raise on the year that I ran. My question would be, isn't there any way that we could make some kind of amendment so that we all could get the raise at the same time?
I can just respond to that briefly. I mean, you can certainly consult with the county attorney, but my understanding is that you can't, for an elected official, you can't get a raise except prior to your term. So never midterm. And
That's in the
why,
charter,
because
right?
the terms are staggered. It's not just in the charter.
I understand that it's in the charter, but there's no way of amending
It's
that.
not just in the charter, it's in the state
because-
law.
Oh, it's state law.
Because I did, going back 15, 18 years, I got a raise, and I don't know, just oversight or what, but I got it.
Well, right now, the council has answered the question as far as, we do have asked.
Okay.
And if there's anything different, I'm sure that we'll be made aware of that and look into it. But right now, anything as far as the charter is concerned, that's something that has to be handled through a change, in the law.
But if it's-
Anything to change the charter. And also, yes, and there would also be a referendum involved in that, that would include, the people. Also voting on something as far as that is concerned.
To me, it's not fair.
Okay. All right, do we have, okay, Ms. Cunningham?
So, listening to this, and I'm sure I'm not alone, you guys have a lot of systemic problems that it sounds like, it almost seems like a ticking time bomb here. Workforce issues, I mean, the 2,200 hours a year, I mean, it seems like you have a model that needs some organizational attention in order to make this more sustainable. I mean, sitting here listening to this, I don't know how anyone comes away from this thinking, oh, you guys got it, it sounds like, you know, a little tweak here or there, you know, budget increases. I mean, it sounds like you need some organizational kind
Which
of.
is what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that we appoint 4 deputy coroners, which I think.
As the fix to this overall sort of systemic. And you think that is.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a big help, yes.
Need feet in the street.
So it's purely, well, one aspect of it is a workforce.
Yeah.
Just plain workforce challenge. But the other thing, like not billing, I mean.
That is
2018, I mean.
That is an issue that happened it's totally our office's
It seems
fault.
like a hot mess.
Well,
You know, that
it
you
is
need a lot of
now,
help.
but that,
I mean, no fault of your.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But you need some sort of focus.
well, I noticed it the very first day.
Can I just add something to this? Okay, it appears as if you are now the head coroner?
I guess,
So you're,
senior.
But with that said, there's a lot of issues that have been brought up and questions that have been raised. You said something about we have to pay $300 to transport, have items transported to Schenectady, okay? I think it's particular issues that, like that too, that warrant a true report, okay? So that the whole body would have something to look at, to really, maybe, you know, then we could actually say, well, you know, there's some drastic changes that we need to make, which does include, like I said, the charter and things like that. So, but we're not gonna solve that here tonight. So what I'm asking of you is to provide some kind of report based upon some of the questions that have been asked and based upon your experience so far in regards to the different charges that haven't been made, as far as you're concerned, over the past years. So that's the best way I would like to handle that, because we can't solve it tonight. And so we're going to give you an opportunity to, one, there are already other questions based upon what you all have learned. Please put it in the email. And 2, please provide us with a report that would help enable us to help you.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Joanne, you said it best, it's a hot mess.
Yeah. Storage.
Is Sheriff Apple in here?
Storage.
Yeah.
Sheriff, we're waiting for you.
You know, the underground is 55. Sports facility on top of it.
I'm sure, I know what you might have it as far as the order, but since I'm the chair, I have the prerogative to change the order, so share the things. And we are, I would say, moving very well tonight. All right, you want to tell us what you have with you and begin your presentation.
First of all, thank you. This is Tina Harris. She is basically my budget director. Working with all of our commanders, we were able to put this together, and I'm told I have 3 minutes. Is that accurate? Maybe 4? I did this in the office when I heard that on the YouTube, so I like, yeah, man, I'm trying, but I don't know if I can do it that fast. All right, we good to go?
Good to go.
All right, thank you. So good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to explain our 2024 budget. Before I get into our proposed budget, I'd like to take a quick minute and brief you on a few initiatives we've embarked on as well as an update on a few that we have in place. I'll kind of go through this as quickly as I can. To increase accountability and officer safety, we've added new body-worn cameras that are connected to the deputy's holster and taser. The minute there's any movement of either, the camera is automatically activated. We also have added streaming features, so we have live footage of incidents while in process. This could be used for major catastrophes, accidents, serving warrants, or even a cell extraction. We've created and started a program called CEDA, Community is the Answer. This brings all of our community partners together to ensure accountability and measure the results of our programs by secure data sharing. This includes housing, addiction, domestic violence, mental health, etc. We've expanded our housing capabilities at the shelter to include women because the need was so great. Just this morning, we added another female who was living under a carport at a Walgreen in Waterville. Additionally, we're waiting on $500,000 in funding that was awarded by Congressman Tonko's office to help with future expenditures. We've received $500,000 from the state to move forward with the construction of an animal shelter to help with the overcrowding. My vision with this is to have the people living in the SHIP shelter work the animal shelter, establishing an employment basis. Many of these folks have no idea how to get a job, what to do with it when they have it, so we're trying to teach them how to go out, get a job, what to do with your money, create a banking account, etc. We're in the process of transitioning from car-mounted mobile data computers to new Apple iPads for every officer. This solution will provide deputies with real-time data and video from 911, as well as increase efficiency with the public while taking reports or requesting information. In our Emergency Medical Services Division, we are transitioning to an all-in-one ambulance software solution. This will unify patient billing, charting, communication, and unit training into one platform. It'll greatly increase efficiency, workflow, and reduce costs. Our 911 and emergency management units continue to finalize the upgrades into our state-of-the-art communications emergency operations center. We've added 911 video, text 911 without using a third party, and added new radios with text capability and cellular technology, increasing the ability to communicate. We've also started rolling these radios out to school districts as a proof of concept to augment our existing security initiatives. Finally, we've completed and rolling out our wellness app. It allows for our members to access through their phone for confidential career wellness, emotional and mental wellness, family wellness, mindfulness, and nutrition. It filters for peer support, trauma, and physical fitness. Basically everything you need to be in a good state of mental and physical well-being. Our goal is to allow all of the emergency responders and their families, regardless of the discipline, an outlet when in need. Think of it kind of like a bulletproof vest. You may not need it all the time, but when you do, it can save your life. Our overview of our proposed 2024 budget in the Sheriff's Office, which consists of 4 budgetary departments, the total increase is 10.56%. Settling the bargaining contractual agreements resulted in both salaries and bonuses impacting the individual and non-individual lines. Fringe, hospital, retirement, Social Security increased by $2.4 million, which is set by management and budget. Removing all of those factors, I have an increase to my budget of 0.07%. And reviewing the budget for fiscal '24, 6 deputy sheriff positions were removed. It is my understanding that while negotiating the contract for the sheriff's PBA, union negotiators mentioned giving up those union positions to further fund their raise. I can't say that I've ever seen a union give up union jobs in their own bargaining unit, but nonetheless it occurred. For background, the positions were family court positions that the Office of Court Administration stopped funding in the early years of COVID. At that time, it had a minor effect on our overall operation, but since that time, our call volume and duties have greatly expanded. We have been experiencing a minimum of 10% call volume increase annually. Furthermore, during the past month, we've received requests to add 3 additional deputy sheriffs to the court security unit and 1 additional deputy sheriff to the airport station, all of which would be fully reimbursed. Therefore, I would respectfully request the funding for 10 deputy sheriffs again, 4 of which are reimbursed, and I can also fund the remaining 6 positions with anticipated revenue and the elimination of a couple of civilian positions. These positions are desperately needed to continue to respond to the increased call volume and assist the many municipalities that we currently serve. Other than the restoration of my deleted deputy sheriffs, the only other request I have, in fact, is my raise. As you're aware, I can only ask for the raise on the year I am running for the first year in office. My current salary is $148,258. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the area chiefs are either just below, equal to, or much above. I've requested a 12% increase due to what the unions received, but actually, I would like to negotiate a higher percentage. The Albany County Sheriff's Office is in fact a unicorn. What I mean is we are the only agency that has all the disciplines of public safety under our umbrella. Obviously, most chiefs are just law enforcement. Many sheriffs are a jail and law enforcement. Here in Albany, we have a large law enforcement division, one of the largest correctional facilities in the state, a large emergency medical service division, 911 for the county, emergency management, and of course, Stop DWI, all of which are accredited where it is accessible. That is all I have. Thank you.
All right. I'll start with the members of the committee. Are there any questions from the members of the committee? And I want you to keep something in mind here. We do have the email which we have asked you to utilize, okay? And so please make sure you're directing your questions to the budget, and if there's any clarification of what has been offered in the presentation. Members?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Mr.
Yeah,
Clerk.
more about the 10 deputy sheriffs, if you could. You want to increase with 10, you said 4 reimbursed, and 6 you can find other budget spots. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. So during COVID, family court was pretty much shut down. At the time, it was the third administrative judge, Tom Breslin, deep into COVID, into that first year when everything was still kind of in flux, and said, listen, we can no longer afford to pay you. Court's not in session. I'm going to have OCA pick this up. They have their own police department as well. We're like, all right, well, will we be coming back? He said, no, we're probably going to just eliminate it. He goes, I don't want to have to get into eliminating all of your security functions, which would be transportation and court security as well. The problem with the elimination of those deputies, they still need to be there because we still got to transport the inmates back and forth and bring them to the courtrooms up and down. OCA does not perform that function. So we said, okay, well, do what you got to do, and they eliminated those 6 deputy positions. So they stayed in the budget right up until this year. Even though OCA wasn't funding them, but we were busy and everything else, it was never an issue. But this year they were removed from the budget. So the 10 number comes into play because if the 6 are restored, 4 of those automatically, 3 need to come down to OC for court functions, security and court functions, and the other needs to go to the airport. They've increased the deputies up there because of the construction and just the traffic nightmare that's occurring. So basically that would leave me the 2 spots. So I'm looking to, or I'm sorry, that puts me down to 2 if I just restore the 6. So I'd like to restore the 6, and then the additional 4 would go into the reimbursed functions. I have monies to pay them with anticipated revenues and the elimination of a few other positions. The reality, sir, is that I'm probably never going to be able to get fully up to staff. I'm having a serious crisis in retention and recruitment. But the list is going to come out in, say, January, no later than, maybe December. We're going to process that list as expeditiously as we can and commence an academy. So I may, for a short period, be able to get fully up to staff and be allowed to perform all of our functions. But as history would dictate, Guilderland, Colony, Bethlehem, troopers, I'm going to slowly lose people. That list that's coming out, which is taken once a year, will be exhausted, I anticipate, in 1 class in January. So I'd like the positions restored. Now, with that said, as I mentioned, there's probably a slim possibility of having all those positions filled.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Joyce?
So that actually ties into my question, I guess. So talk retention and recruitment, then you have the training process too. So you have that, they're vacant until they're trained and qualified. But so you have overtime budgets. The jail, I think I understand, but it's half of what it was in 2022, and your budget for even the sheriff's department is almost half of what it was for 2022. Can you explain that? Or, you would think with vacancies, the overtime would go up, but.
Yeah, it probably should. That overtime line to us is always a bit of a mystery. It kind of fluctuates up and down, but it's usually comes in lower, and then we have to dump lines and flood the overtime towards the probably 3/4 mark of the year.
Okay.
Obviously, the Albany detail is a lot of overtime. It wasn't for a majority of the summer. We had a fixed group of people working it. And in fairness to them, they need a break. They've been humping calls down there. So now we've kind of moved them out, and we're filling some of the spots with overtime until we can get some other people in there, which is, it's got to go through the bidding process. So, listen, we try to shuffle staff as much as we can to, keep that overtime down to a minimum. But even right now, with what's going on in Israel, I have mosques and synagogues calling all day to protect their faith-based installations and make sure everything is safe so people can go and worship and not have to look over their shoulder. So I have details going at a lot of the mosques. I have a detail going at a lot of the synagogues and one at the mosque up in Colony. So those, we bill them. We try to recoup as much money as we can, but, it's problematic. We're doing a lot of shifting with what we have. We need people, that's the answer.
All right, any other members of the committee?
I have a question, if I could.
Okay.
Just on the 911.
Mr. Kramer, did you ask a question yet?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, hold on one moment.
Okay.
Are there any other members of the committee? Are there any members of the body?
Just got a question. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Sheriff, I appreciate everything you do to keep us all safe. I really appreciate that, so do my constituents. Just to follow up, one of the other presenters this evening mentioned retention and/or hiring people he's having very difficult. Do you have any suggestions, aside from just money, what we can do to recruit more people, get more people, to come to your facilities?
Yeah, listen, first of all, the county executive, you folks, I think did a great job with the contracts this year. I think it was a great boost that these employees needed. Many of these employees, I was telling Tina out in the hall, we hired an individual earlier this year from the clerk who was making less than minimum wage. And the reason being because the contracts were still being negotiated. Couldn't even live on that. So yes, money is a part of it. I think you folks helped greatly with the resident, or I hope maybe within the next 2 weeks with the residency requirement. I think that'll be a good boost. But other than that, it's things like the wellness portion, we try to show and our employees that, look, we're invested in you. It's not just about come in here and perform a function for 8 hours and go home. We want you to have 20 years successful career. Some of us decide to stick around for another 10 or 15, but there are some people that do it. But we want to invest in them, and we want them to be the best physical shape, the best mental shape. And, mental health is a big thing. Guys are getting burned out. They're not, those old salty dogs from the 70s, 80s, and 90s are gone. And now, money is actually probably one of the lesser factors of retention, They want that safety, they want that security. And the problem is a lot of them want Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So when you're talking about rotating shifts and things of that nature, it becomes a little bit problematic. But, you guys have been great as far as the monies and everything else. I think the residency will be big. But I also think it's investing in our employees and, making sure, like we have a gym, go use the gym. Maybe you need to decompress in there. Folks can't just decompress and go home with a bottle of bourbon and a six-pack, you got to have other avenues, or eventually it just explodes, right?
Sure.
So I can tell you, we have one person on staff dedicated right to it. We have a tier of peer counselors that are always trying to help with traumatic calls, deaths, whether it's in the jail or whether it's on the road. We're trying to do all we can, but again, it's also, you've got burnout that's always lingering in the background. When you've got COs working, 2, 3, 16-hour shifts back to back because, we don't have the employees, and you got deputies that are, working 16 hours, humping calls in Albany, then going down to Queens and getting calls, and, they're doing it, 3, 4 days a week, doubles. By mandate, it becomes an issue. You can only do that so long.
Thank you.
Safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Joyce.
Beginning of your presentation or at the end of it, you mentioned potentially asking for an increase above the 12%.
Yes.
Any idea what that number might be right now?
Yeah, you know what? I've talked to some of the peers right in the area here. You've got, one at 162, you've got one at 150, you've got one at 148. My salary's 148, my undersheriff's is 144. I know the 12% looks like, a huge amount of money, but honestly, I was looking at roughly somewhere around 17 to 18%. And that, listen, it's not a matter of just running a law enforcement division or anything to that effect, throughout the state, some people with additional duties get a stipend added on to it. Some of the counties that have stop DWI get an additional 13 to 15,000 added on. The odd part here in Albany is we've got all the disciplines here, so I fought hard for the men and women that work for me, and I'd be foolish if I didn't fight for myself.
Any other members? Mr. McCoy.
So you did state that you are looking to eliminate some civilian positions.
Mm-hmm.
I see one possible civilian position here as a special project coordinator. I'm not sure if that is a civilian position, but what other positions, civilian positions that you're looking to eliminate, and why?
The major helper positions, I can't get anybody to fill those positions. They've been vacant for over a year. And I think it's 3 positions total, 173.
Mr. Greer?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. The 911 center, have we fully financed that? Is that operational? What's the status of that?
Oh, yes, I think I reported it a couple months back. We're fully functional, we're operational. State of the art, we've got video to 911, text to 911, we've got everything out there that you can think of. It's literally, as of right now in New York, there's no center that has greater technology than what we have. We're very proud of that. Again, as I've mentioned many times in public safety and sometimes in audit and finance, we built it with the hopes that other municipalities will come in hopes of saving millions of dollars. And I firmly believe that. I've been in touch with a couple municipalities that are a little bit smaller that have talked and want to come over and look at it. And we can do it all right there. I mean, the days of people saying that, well, you know what, they know the municipality and they're better served in that municipality, those days are gone. There's no justification for that anymore. We have a state-of-the-art facility. We have ample amount of seats and call takers to dispatch calls wherever, as it is now for a certain municipality. Hundreds of calls roll over to us constantly, and we handle those without any problem. So there's a small municipality that's talking to us. There's one slightly larger that's talking to us, and really that's where we're at this point.
Sheriff, several months ago, I called 911 from Guilderland, and because I had a Schenectady address, I got Schenectady County. Has your technology been able to fix that? Or?
Yes and no. So you're on the other end of Guilderland, I believe, right? So you probably went into that Schenectady
Right here,
Unified.
Schenectady line, yeah.
Yeah, so you went into the Schenectady Unified division up there, their dispatchers. Our technology did shrink a lot as far as how wide that goes out when you call 911. It used to be like a ridiculous amount of like 300 feet or 100 yards, something to that effect. And now it's down to like 50 feet. So we should be able to pinpoint you. But you're so close over there with Schenectady, it's not really the address. It's, did you use a cellular?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it jumped to the closest tower, which would bring you over. This area right here below us, I guess this way, is actually problematic with that as well, because it'll jump to Rensselaer, and then would it take you about a second and a half for them to switch you back over to us?
I explained where I was from, yeah, but, this is,
You probably screamed at me that you spent $13 million and you can't even,
Yeah.
I get it.
Thanks. Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah, just thank you. 2.8 into the revenue for the surcharge. Trying to get, are we gonna hit that target? Are we even?
We're gonna come in low this year. We will definitely come in low, and it's not by anything that the county is doing or my staff. It's, we had to really push hard to get the phone companies to play ball with us. So Verizon is kind of the fiduciary. So all the other phone companies send the monies to Verizon, then Verizon sends back. Verizon has gotten better. We've been in touch with their legal department, I don't even know how many times. It's the smaller ones. It's those smaller phone companies that are out there that are not sending the monies. Now, the monies are growing every quarter. They're increasing exponentially, but we will fall shy of our anticipated surplus in the 911 revenue.
Thank you very much. Any members of the legislature? Now, we're going to move on.
Joanne had it. Did you have your?
Oh, yeah, I have one. So I know you're expanding the Accord program. That's part of this year's budget. And remind me what communities this is the crisis diverting mental health program. What communities you're working with to expand that?
So as we sit here right now, it's still Clemens and all through the mountain.
Okay.
I'm gonna catch hell for this, but listen, I truthfully believe in order to do this program as efficiently as we want to, the county needs to run this program. Meaning, we can't have every different municipality with their own Accord team, because things are not gonna be unified. Colony's gonna do things their way, Albany's gonna do things their way. I know we've got some union issues in some municipalities, so in order to do it and to keep the program uniform, I really think that the county needs to run this program for the county and respond with different teams into the different areas that are calling for them. This program works. I was not a huge proponent of it initially, Matt, Peter had about 15 meetings with me, and then, I'm like, I guess so, because initially when you look at it at first, it was like, you want to kind of put the cops to the side and focus on this. And the program works. We've saved lives with this program. I've seen people turn around as a result of this program. I've seen people not go to jail. I've seen people not end up in the psych center for extended periods of time, leave the hospital, be able to communicate with family members. The program works. But I just fully believe the program would work better if the county ran this program the way we run this program right now. We work great with Dr. Giordano's social workers and our EMTs and paramedics. They go out. We can always get our people out. Now, I know it's tough to get social workers. That's a bit of an issue. But if we're having a hard time, the municipalities are too.
So you run it in city, where do you run it right now?
We run it basically all around you. We have Queens and all of the mountain and New Scotland.
So, but Bethlehem has it.
Well, we go into Bethlehem a lot because, listen, I'm not going to deny somebody. What am I going to do? They're going to call and be like, you're not paying?
No, I thought we have it currently, I was told we have it currently, but
Not
who
really.
is paying for those social workers?
Nobody. You don't really have it. You have it by virtue of, it's my EMTs that work in Bethlehem. And
In
we're
conjunction with our
Yes,
EMT?
and we're constantly going through there.
Okay.
Well, your EMTs are actually our EMTs. They contract with all BLS and ALS. So they, we've kind of surrounded you, so we're cutting through there and everything else. I can't deny somebody a call. Somebody calls and says, you know what, I've got a person that's threatening suicide. I'm going to be like, did you pay your bill? I can't do that. So, we roam around a little bit in hopes that, it'll all flush out and that the county will eventually run this program. The program works, we can save lives with it, but if we're going to do it, I think we need to do it right and not individualize every single municipality and have 13 different teams out there.
Okay. That's helpful. So is that part of your plan?
Can I follow up with that? Just a quick one. Are you proposing that you run the program throughout the county or that
Well, I'd say me. Let's back up a second. Listen, Dr. G and I work great together, and we're doing this under the county exec's umbrella, and I don't really care who runs the program. All I can tell you is that my EMTs and Dr. G's social workers have saved lives. We've changed lives. We've stopped people. We have one guy that knew, he said, I'm going to die by cop tonight. I want to die by cop tonight. And we stopped that. And the guy went to the hospital, and he needed medication. He was off his meds. We had another fella who had onset Alzheimer's, and it was undiagnosed. And, crazy things were happening. He got medicated, he's fine. So, the cases are out there. I just think that if the county ran the program, the county would be better served. That's all I'm saying. I just think when you break it down, and you have 10 different teams out there, things are not going to be uniform. And then what do you do with the social worker that's been working in the north end of the county, just say Cohoes for 3 weeks, and now all of a sudden is down in Bethlehem on a 4th week, and they're doing things differently. It's really not even fair to them.
My question really is, when you say the county, are you referring to which agency?
Well, it could be Dr. G, it could be me. I don't really care. I just know that we have a program in place that runs and functions like a well-oiled machine, and we need to just expand that. We don't need to duplicate it all over.
I guess what I'm hearing is, and maybe what we don't realize, is that this is municipality driven, is that correct? And this is where each municipality actually has to sign on to this, is that correct?
That's how it stands currently, is that each municipality should supply EMTs and paramedics and pay for a social worker. I'm not saying they shouldn't pay, I'm just saying they should all run under the county's umbrella. So everything is uniform, everybody is in sync, and things are operating well. And I've seen it happen when people break off, and this agency does that, and this agency does this. Things get dropped, policies don't get followed. You're doing one thing, I've got a policy for this, you don't. It's just not fair to the people that'll be shuffling through the county.
Ms. Lockhart.
Thank you. Sheriff, I understand how the program works, but something kind of my interest, the social workers. They all come from Dr. G's office, or Albany County Mental Health.
Yes.
But, so how many social workers are there that work for the court program?
Right now, there's only a couple, and one of them is about to go out for maternity.
So like
leave.
2?
I think 2 or 3 tops.
How, in God's name, do they cover the entire county with all those different
Well,
municipalities?
they're not right now. They're just doing the outlying areas. And
Even that?
it's not easy. Many times, the social worker's not available, so we just team up with 2 EMTs.
So they're just kind of on call?
Yes. So there needs to be, we need to make an aggressive move towards hiring social workers, which is a constant problem, even for me at the correctional facility, because it's like a stepping stone. You come in, you get somebody trained up, and the state takes them because they pay $15,000, $18,000 more. So it's a battle. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fix, but again, I just think it should all be one umbrella and everybody working off the same policies and procedures and protocols, and instead of 13 different.
All right, thank you. Carolyn? Carolyn? Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tina.
We're gonna take a little short break here right now for everybody. Get some water.
Get some more.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna hit the sugar high pretty soon, and then we're gonna crunch. You ready? You ready?
I just want to thank everybody so far for your participation. It's going really very well. Again, I'm going to remind the members to stay on point, talking about the budget. If you're bringing up something that you know you haven't submitted in the email so that we could present it to the agency heads, okay? I might ask you to put it in the email so they would have an opportunity, not to try to just talk off the cuff, especially because a lot of times the answer gets extended because they're trying to think of an answer for you when it really requires more than just a really short response. So I'm asking the members, please remember that if you did not ask your questions to the agency heads or to these are our separately elected right here, be aware that you're really taking up time that, could be better utilized in that email, and you could get a better response to it. All right? So we're going to move forward now. We're going to first start with our comptroller, then we're going to move to the district attorney's office, and then to management and budget. All right? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rizzo.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the legislature. I'm joined tonight by my Executive Deputy Controller, Chip Dott. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Department of Audit and Control's 2024 budget proposal. Before that, however, I would be remiss not to highlight some of the excellent work of my staff during 2023. Our office managed the county through another successful audit process, receiving the desired opinion of the county's outside auditors that our financials were presented fairly and in all material respects. My office is on pace to audit over 55,000 vendor claims and audit occupancy tax receipts for over 30 hotels and motels. We assisted the Department of Management and Budget in strategic investment of county funds, especially regarding liquidity, resulting over $15 million in interest income projected for all funds in 2023. Even though the interest rate has gone up over the last 10 years, now over 5%, the current Comptroller's Office ensures all funds are invested to maximize the county's opportunity to increase interest income. We completed 3 performance audits with an additional 6 audits in progress. During 2023, the Comptroller's Office took on audit and processing functions for seizure funds used by the Sheriff and the District Attorney. Please note, the Sheriff and the District Attorney continue to independently determine permissible uses and awardees. Additionally, my office integrated the management of nursing home residents' personal funds into the county's accounting system. These achievements would not be possible without the dedication and professionalism of my staff. I am proud each day to lead such a talented group of accountants, auditors, and support staff. To further expand the development of my staff, we have utilized evaluations for each employee and continue to further engage in succession planning over the next year. Over the next year, my office will take on additional projects, duties, and responsibilities. These include providing assistance to a multi-departmental effort to transition the county from a legacy human resource protocols to a fully integrated human resource information system. Implementation of new accounting requirements issued by the Government Accounting Standards Board in addition to recent GASB updates. Engaging 3 additional performance audits of Albany County departments and agencies. Department of Audit and Control's 2024 proposed budget provides appropriate levels of funding so we can effectively achieve our mission. I am asking for your support of my proposed budget and would appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rizzo. I'll start with the members of the committee. Is there any questions from members of the committee? I will then move to members of the legislature, the rest of the legislative body.
Yes. Good evening. Just had a real quick question about the revenues under refund prior year expenses. Looks like $365K remains pretty flat. Just trying to understand what goes behind that.
Let me have Chip Dott explain it because he's intimately involved with the write-offs that we have to do throughout the year.
So the controller's fees
are basically something that comes from the airport. They're very minimal.
Oh, I missed that, Chip.
I'm saying the controller's fees is one of our revenues. That comes from the airport. It's very minimal. That's always stayed at 15,000. I've been here 35 years. It's always been around there. The one underneath it with revenue fund prior year expense, right now, we're about 350,000. We have another month and a half. What that really entails is money that comes in for whatever multiple reasons that's from the prior year. So it could be just an average department that bought something and it was returned and the money came back, but it was out of a 2022 PO or whatever the case may be. If it's prior year, it has to go back into that revenue account, and that's where we drop it. That's how we're audited from our outside auditor. Realistically, we do bring in, like I said, we're about 350,000 right now, and we're pretty close to on pace. The last revenue I have is other, and to be honest with you, there's nothing usually dropping into that.
Oh, yes, Ms. Rosano.
Thank you.
And speak up, please.
Okay, can you explain the claim approval for the expenditures from the patient's account at the nursing home, what that actually means?
So the patient account used to be run through on a separate checking account, separate checkbook at the nursing home. So we now put it through Munis. So we audit those claims just like we audit all the other 55,000 claims. So it comes through our office instead of having a separate checkbook and a separate checking account.
It's not as though you give approval for it.
That they approve it.
Okay.
The nursing home approves it and submits it like any other claim, just like the seizure funds for the DA and the sheriff. We don't tell them what to spend the money on. We just audit it and it goes through our claims, but then it goes through Munis and it goes through our checkbook instead of having individual checking accounts.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Matt, did you have a question also?
No, I just want to.
Oh, okay, all right. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
What does a financial advisor for $21,000 do for you? I mean, I thought you guys were the experts.
This is for bonding. So we have a bond advisor and we have a financial advisor for bonding. So when we go out to bond, CMA is our financial advisor. So they're the ones that actually package the deal, go to Wall Street to price the bond. And then we have a bond attorney as well. I do look to save quite a bit of that money if the legislators would like to not bond this year as a recommendation by management and budget, as well as the controller's office, because we have such a large fund balance. So we would save that money.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Specific to the positions in your department, where salaries have increased greater than the 3% level, which component is related to the comprehensive workforce development plan that was implemented in last year's budget?
We have a succession plan in our office, in our accountants. We have advanced their salaries and have a plan for 5 specific accountants. And we're very concerned about losing our people. So as far as a comprehensive workforce plan, as well as also evaluations and succession plans, we feel that the salaries need to be compensated for the work that they're doing, and we don't want to risk losing people and having to re-educate people again. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Block?
Thank you. I'm looking at the increase for the senior auditor, which is above the 3%, $10,000. Is that going to impact the services that the residents are going to receive? Or is it just a matter of you just doing some auditing of what's going on at the prison?
Okay, he took over the patient account, so we did not hire any additional people in our office. So he's taking on additional duties, and he also has advanced his skill set. So, like I said, we have a succession plan within our office, and our auditors, accountants, are about making around the same dollar amount. And we've accelerated that over the last 5 years. Certain people got raises each year, so it doesn't impact our budget so much in one year.
I guess I was concerned, what impact will it have on the services to the residents? Or is there any impact at that point?
To the residents,
Yes, because you said it's a liaison for the nurses, for Shaker Place.
okay, you're talking about the residents at Shaker Place?
Yes.
Right, because we are, it's another audit function for the nursing home. There was a separate checkbook at the nursing home. So now it's in our Munis system. So there's much more checks and balances to make sure, and it does cover Albany County, because these are patient accounts, that we want to make sure that things do flow through our system with the checks and balances of Audit 5.
Are there any other questions? If not, thank you very much, Ms. Rizzo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Soares. Are you ready?
I am. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to present to you the budget for our coming year. I must first begin with ample apologies to this body as well as to the Division of Budget Management. There was a number of items that we could not answer based upon the fact that we had not been provided with numbers for grants that we anticipated receiving from the state, but we received them nonetheless, but we received them much later in the budget process, and therefore many of those items were not included in the county executive's budget. With respect to the county executive's budget, we embrace the county executive's budget with the exception of 10 very specific items. So I want to make that very clear. Initially, when we had engaged with the Department of Management, I believe that we were operating under the impression of a 2% tax cap, and therefore we did not request any bonuses or raises that were above the 2%. We later learned that it was 3%, and that's what the county executive included in the budget. Therefore, we embrace that, and we would endorse that wholeheartedly. The areas that require that there are discrepancies, the 10 areas, are all grant-related areas. Very specifically, our grant periods usually run from the month of April until the following March. And this year, because of the budget being late, as well as a number of public safety issues that were being debated up at the Capitol, we did not receive our award letters for a variety of different grants that we received from New York State until some of them came in late July, others came in late August, but we appeared before the Audit and Finance Committee here to request legislative action to apply for those grants, to seek the receptivity of those grants, as well as to create new lines for those grants. So the vast majority of issues that we have before us for purposes of reconciliation have already been addressed by this body, but it's just simply not reflected in the actual budget as it was submitted. Therefore, if you would like, we would go through them, we could help explain, and then look forward to an opportunity where we can correct those numbers as they appear in the actual physical budget that you're holding before you.
Please proceed.
Okay. The questions that were asked of each and every person that's appeared before this body is whether or not this coming year's budget was going to affect the performance of our office, specifically as it relates to services for vulnerable communities. The reality is, this year, we have received more grant funding from New York State as a result of their awareness of the additional responsibilities that have been imposed on district attorneys' offices throughout the state. In some instances, we've received double the amount of money that we received in years past, which again, not having those figures really prevented us from being able to provide those dollar figures early on in the budgetary process. But as far as the issues that we're concerned with here, it's aid to prosecution, which we received double the amount that we normally receive. It's the GIVE grant. It's a specific gun-related grant. It is the discovery funds, as well. Am I missing?
No, those three.
Okay. That has enabled us to not only fund the pre-existing positions, but hopefully with those additional dollars, it'll help us attract new talent to the office that is also necessary for us to continue doing our work. Areas of practice where we're experiencing, perhaps the greatest challenge for us is in areas like the raise the age categories, where our prosecutors are now, being asked to not only be in adult part, but we're also being asked to also appear in family court. And the litigation in family court is much more aggressive than I think lawmakers had anticipated in the past. Other areas that continue to present challenges is the discovery areas, where the time for us to provide material over to the defense is so expedited that it's been a challenge, but we continue to wrestle with that challenge by the new positions that we've created within the office. We have currently 9 vacancies for lawyers, and like every other agency head that's appeared here today, the challenge for us is attracting talent. The one thing I will say that has made life a little bit easier, and thank you to the chairman and the rest of the legislature for having at least temporarily suspended the residency required, because it does broaden the pool from which we can pull talent and attract talent. But we do believe that the aid to prosecution resources will assist us by way of signing bonuses and also creating competitive salary lines.
Excuse me. Are there any questions, first of all, from the members of the committee?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're saying the budget is different than it would have been because the grants came in later? Is that what you're saying?
The grants came in later, and they came in different sums. They came in with a higher value than we had previously experienced.
So the new hires you're looking to hire, they would all be state reimbursed then, based on the grant money, or?
Those are dollars that are provided up front.
They're all block grants.
Yeah.
From the state?
Correct.
100%?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I have any questions from the members? Ray, do you have questions?
Just a few, yeah. So it looks like you have 8 ADA vacancies currently in your department, but the request for the overtime is specific mostly to the discovery reform. Is it also for the ADA vacancies, or no?
ADAs aren't, they're not eligible for overtime, but we have staff, for example, our folks that are engaged in discovery that are working beyond the hours that are set for them in the office. They're working weekends and the like. Therefore, that's the reason we're seeking additional resources.
Mostly in our intake unit, they have to move a tremendous amount of data from one place to another and open all the files. Those are the individuals that are getting most of that overtime.
So the request for the overtime is strictly discovery reform then?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything you're doing to, I mean, for the ADA vacancies, is there, I know we're having issues all across the county, but any ideas of recruitment? What's your plan?
We are advertising in a number of places for assistant DAs. We have a couple in the queue right now that we're hopefully going to be able to hire. And the criminal law associate program that we run with the cooperation of the legislature, we just had 5 CLAs pass the bar
So those are going to become ADAs as soon as we can get them sworn in. So, that seems to be our best source of future lawyers, is by raising them ourselves while they're still in law school.
All right. Oh, Mr. Clerk.
David, I know that you, how wrapped up you are into this raises the age. What are your plans on dealing with that? I mean, I read some of the cases. I mean, this gets to be rather ridiculous.
Yeah, we've made very specific recommendations for the New York State Legislature to consider that would enable us to hold on to more cases. For example, raise the age requires that the young person actually display a weapon.
It has to be a functioning gun. If it just looks like a gun and we can't prove that it's a gun, we don't get to keep the case. It goes to family court.
So we're asking the legislature to amend the condition that it be displayed to simple possession. So if you possess an illegal firearm, then that's something that we could proceed. In addition to having the opportunity to appeal those decisions that we're seeing right now in family court. And before we elaborate on that, I would also like to say that we're not talking about judges who are making poor decisions. We're talking about judges whose hands are rather strapped as a result of the law that is written now. And so that's the kind of movement that we're hoping to make with the legislature to change that law. But I will say, at some point in time in public, when you want to talk, we just need more intervention, programs for young people who live in very specific communities, because it's the same 75 blocks that continue to deliver the level of violence that we're seeing right now.
Excuse me, yes. Mr. Ricard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try to speak louder. And I appreciate everything you're doing, trying to change the legislation for raising the age. I think that's great. I just said I appreciate everything he's trying to do with the raise the age legislation. I do appreciate that. I asked two questions of the previous presenters with regard to the staffing. Other than just salary, is there anything else you can suggest that would help to retain staff and or attract new staff?
Well, let me just say that unlike most counties, we have the 200-pound gorilla that's up the hill. And therefore, we're not competing with, a law office. We're not competing with, the lure of private practice. We're competing with other state jobs that are paying people a little more money. And we're also at a disadvantage in the sense that many of the people who have left my office have left specifically for additional resources, but also 2 days on, 3 days off, where there's more flexibility and folks can enjoy the quality of life.
So they make a little more money for a lot less work. Right now, the amount of work we have to do has exploded by 5-10 times as much as we used to have to do, and the money isn't any better.
But I also think, and it just occurred to me as a result of something that happened last week, where someone in the county government was looking for, they had some health issues and they were looking for more time, and you have people that pitch in and donate time. So there's a number of different programs that we have in the county government that I think are so good that we tend not to advertise or amplify them. But morale is important in creating opportunities for people to get together and do something that's a little less stressful. That's what we're tooling around with. It's worked so far. But I think this budget that's being passed, and hopefully through your approval tonight, will send a message to how important it is that we believe our people are, and it will assist us in retaining them by offering them a little bit more with those grants.
Thank you.
Mr. Feeney.
No, I was going to, Patty.
All right, just hold on. Let me just ask this question. Can you please just comment on the major differences between this year's budget requests and your requested budget last year?
The difference is I had come to Albany County Legislature requesting many additional positions. And I think all of you who were here who may have been shell-shocked by our sticker price, that's what we believed we needed in order to achieve the goals that we had set out for ourselves. And while we understood the fact that Albany County would have to foot the bill for laws you didn't have any responsibility in passing. The governor, as well as the Assembly and the Senate, provided us with the resources that we were asking for. And that's the major difference, is that we left here and went there and asked, and they were able to provide it as a result of them, I think, owning up a little bit to the bills that they passed.
And hopefully with that additional money, we'll be able to fill the positions that we haven't been able to fill. I'm sorry, we're hoping that with the additional funds that we have now, we'll be able to fill all those positions that we haven't been able to fill up to this point. So we didn't feel comfortable asking for more positions when we haven't even been able to fill the ones that we have open.
Okay, so does that include, I just gonna, you have a number of 8 ADA vacancies?
Yes.
So is your current strategy, what is your current strategy? Is this it right here, fulfilling those positions?
Filling those positions and being able to attract additional, what we have left out is the fact that the aid to prosecution dollars allows for the flexibility for us to be able to get our sea legs underneath us come the beginning of the year. If there are more applicants than we currently have lines for, there are enough resources for us to revisit with the dollars that are coming from the state to create additional positions. But at this point, I think by Valentine's Day, trying to fill 50% of the vacancies we have would put us in a very good position.
Okay. Ms. Lockhart?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, I'm sorry. I just want a quick question, the Criminal Law Associate Program. They're law students and you're waiting for the bar. What year of law school do they come to you?
We've had them in the summer of their first year. So they will intern with us during that summer. They will come the sophomore year. They will get credit because they're coming through us from the clinic at the law school, so they're getting classroom credit. Third year, they will come to us, and some of them are receiving scholarships. But many of the CLAs that have demonstrated promise, that have prosecuted cases with a student practice order, those are the folks that we're targeting, and we're hiring them as CLAs. They're working in the office. They're attending classes, but they are working in the office, and then when they graduate and pass and get sworn in, they are ADAs, and we're moving them. That's been one strategy for us to retain our talent.
Just a follow-up to that. They're doing internships, so they're getting some credit at the law school for those, right?
And they're also funded by this body.
Right.
You do have stipends for the kids.
So do we, because it's kind of a good deal for them. I mean, they get to go to a premier district attorney's office and learn a lot. Do we ask them or have any kind of thing where once you become an ADA that we ask you to stay for a year, 3 years, 5 years, or anything like that?
We've just started doing that this year. We hadn't done it in the past. The problem with those commitments is they're actually unenforceable.
Okay.
But we are now asking them just because, hopefully they will do the right thing
Yeah.
and decide to stay. But I'm asking for 3-year commitments for anyone that we actually hire on as a CLA.
Because I'm assuming that once they become an ADA, obviously their salary goes up, so.
Correct.
I mean, it's a great program for people young law students. So,
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In your pre-submitted budget information, you mentioned a recommended addition of grant writing and grant management staff to your office. Is this reflected in your current request?
We currently, we've hired a young lady in the office who's assuming a lot of the budget responsibilities. We currently have our deputy chief who's doing a lot of that, but that would be the responsibility as well that we're hoping to transfer over.
Although the reference there was to a new position that would handle a lot of administrative stuff, grant writing, grant administration. Because my specialty is appellate law, not being an administrator, and I'm definitely not an accountant.
Yeah, I have a question. Thanks.
I was waiting.
Oh.
Mr. Graham.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me the state is now giving you a lot of money to deal with problems their state laws created. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's crazy. It's crazy. What's the next question?
All right, very, very good, very good. Do I have any other questions?
Crazy.
I have one other thing I'd like to address before we wrap up. There's two lines, and I had sent this to Eric earlier today, but it was pretty late in the day. There's two criminal forensic auditor positions that we have in here, and they are non-union lines, but we're putting union people on those lines. They're police investigators, and it becomes a problem because they're not labeled union, they're not being collectively bargained, and then things get applied to them that shouldn't be applied to them. So one of them is occupied by an investigator who is union. The other one is vacant. I'd ask you to convert those forensic auditor lines to union lines as criminal investigators. We will be hiring people with a background in accounting and forensic accounting, but they're most likely going to be police, retired police officers. We have some. Well, I'm requesting it right here.
Fly, all
Yeah, yeah. If we could make those union lines, then we'll have an easier time filling those, and we'll be able to do some of this administrative and accounting stuff that we're struggling with right now.
Wrong ones. Done. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your patience, and again, I apologize for the late submission earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Daytime. Commissioner.
Chairwoman, I have a good question.
For me?
Yeah, for anyone that can actually answer.
Excuse me?
For anyone that can answer. For you first, and then Andrew, Rebecca, anyone can answer, because it's been bugging me. I didn't know what to answer.
Is it related to?
No, not to him, to the budget as a whole.
Oh, okay, so, he's been waiting.
Oh, okay.
It'd be nice, we would be nice if you would let him go, then you put it to the rest of us.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Booker.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. For those that do not know me, I'm Dave Riley, I think everyone does. This is Pat Alderson, the Deputy in Management and Budget. First, let me start off with, to answer your earlier question, our departmental budget as well as the full county budget, in my view, should cover all needs of the community. It's something our team takes great pride in, the county executive takes great pride in, but also just like to thank my team because there's been a lot of nights and weekends put into all this. Probably the easiest step up from there is I had sent out a PowerPoint. I think you guys have it on your tablets. It's just kind of, we'll run through the revenue review as we do every year. And then from that point, we can kind of swing back to some other questions. I might have one extra copy of what else.
Anyone needs a printed version, just let Curtis know.
Oh, thank you,
Mr. Best. Raise the hand first. No, you would. One more.
Mine's pretty.
I'm the green.
Just give Curtis a second to go with ready.
Does everyone have one? Are we ready?
There's a little color. We good, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sorry about the delay there. So we can, I'll kind of walk you through the packet here. The The 2024 proposed budget has total revenues of $704 million, which then combined with our levy of $99,752,250, which is my favorite number, I keep repeating it every year. That gives us a total of $804 million. Levy, as I said, remains unchanged from 2022 and 2023. The increase in revenue is approximately $52 million globally. Slide 2 just takes you through some of the math behind that, the percentage increases year over year in each category. Slide 3 takes you to a very convoluted math equation that basically is our tax cap levy calculation. Now, layman's terms, you always hear us talk about 2%. It's not exactly 2%, as we'll get into. So we have with a, I don't feel the need to actually walk you through every piece of the calculation unless you need it, but from the broad overviews, with a levy limit of $104 million, which is what you back into based on prior years of not taking the full amount, you get to carry over a certain amount. That actually gives us a difference of approximately $4.3 million this year. So that is our theoretical maximum we could have increased. It's not just 2% because we've saved so much in past years by not levying it onto the taxpayers. There is an out to do the greater increase, but I think we've been doing pretty good the past few years, so I think our calculations have been working for us, as well as being able to save that as a cushion for years past if we need to. As I said to Mr. Afacoro before, when the county exec was up here, the tax rate is simply the amount of our levy divided among our equalized assessed value of property in the county minus total equalized value of exemptions. So we just give an average for the county. Some municipalities will be a little higher than that, some a little lower than that. That all is based on factors that are fully in their control and not under ours. Like if they value commercial and residential differently, if they have like a tax certiorari case in front of them that would change valuations of things. So in 2023, the rate was $3.17 per thousand of equalized assessed value. The rate for 2024 will be dropping to $2.84 roughly, which is our 11th year of reducing that rate. Last year, we were the 9th lowest in the state. I would imagine that we have to drop a few rungs from that. I will be providing Mr. Ford. Actually, no, Mr. Ford already has a list because he got it from NISAC of the comparison of the different counties. So you can see how we are so much more affordable to live here than most of our neighbors. All right, so that brings you through. Slide 4 is the past few years levy calculation. Sorry, I wasn't flipping the pages here. Slide 5 gets into that rate per thousand that we were talking about. Slide 6 is our sales tax, and while this chart appears in the budget book, as I was discussing before with Mr. Ward, the third quarter for 2023 was unknown as of the time of the budget release. The last payment from the state, which is also the largest payment, had not yet been received. So I believe in the budget book, it's something like 60 million, 56 million printed. It actually ended up being our highest third quarter ever at $93.35 million. Yeah, just to put that into context, I believe the last 9 quarters of sales tax are the highest 9 in Albany County history. We all saw the initial spike right after COVID and figured it was going to drop right off. We budgeted very conservatively on the sales tax. That's part of the driver of why we've been able to increase our fund balance the way we have. This year, based on what I'm seeing from other municipalities, it's still a fairly conservative, conservative forecast there. To put it into perspective, if the fourth quarter comes in between $3 and $4 million below last year, hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah, if the fourth quarter comes in a little bit below what it did last year, so it dropped off going against that trend, we will still beat next year's estimate. So very conservative, we're basically projecting no growth, potentially even a little let off. Page 7 here is just a different graphical view. You can see the growth year over year a little differently. Page 8 is comparing that quarter by quarter to the previous year. That's why you have your ups and downs. Like the second quarter of 2023 was down a little from the second quarter of 2022, even though 23 is far exceeding 24 or 22. Let's see. All right. Kind of lost myself here. All right, so These increases obviously are very nice, helped us deal with all the inflationary pressures we've had to deal with, and it's still growing. But that said, trying to be conservative here, so a lot of what we have done is taken some of that cash and utilized it in ways that are non-recurring. We're not using it to backfill salaries, we're not using it to pay for our union contracts. This is along the lines of what the deputy county executive was talking about before with the economic development investments. As was stated before, the prime driver of the reduced property tax rate here is the growth of the base. Economic development, you bring in, another plug power project or Regeneron, things like that, as many of you are well aware, that's far better for your tax base than, building a couple hundred houses or something like that. You need both types of growth. So if we go at it and go after the commercial money, that helps bolster it to keep the taxpayers for the homeowners much lower. So that we've included $6 million for the Sustainable Technology and Green Energy Act to be a climate smart investment to build upon the successes already seen helping our green tech companies grow here. This provides us with long-term benefits that I just described, building upon the current or already seen successes of our economic development team. As also stated, we have $1 million earmarked for the arts, $3 million budgeted for the Albany County Improvement Initiative. As you've seen in the last year since we started this program, it's been collaboratively used between the exec's office and the legislature for various veterans initiatives, improvements to homeless shelters, area rec facilities, recreation programs, and fire training facilities. Another item that we're doing out of this is our new daycare out at the Shaker Place facility. So if anyone's not aware of that, it's going to get priority placement to workers at the nursing home, then second-tier placement to other county workers with a county subsidized rate as well. If there's any slots left open after the end of that, it would be a full market rate. I believe the facility is basically built out at this point, and we're getting close to applying to New York State for the licensure to run that. So we're on slide 9 here. This is a breakdown of revenues across the various funds that everything falls into. So you can see the breakdown of sales tax, state revenue, federal revenue, and this is our projections going out the next 3 years to show the different growth here. Take that to slide 10, which is basically the exact same information but in a graphical breakdown on a pie chart. Slide 11 is one that comes up every year. This is our tobacco master settlement agreement revenue. As you can see, we're down a little bit over the past few years, but when you look at it graphically, you'll see it's kind of stayed about the same over the previous 23 years, so it's actually a much more stable revenue source than we had originally thought in the past. It always comes in kind of right around 4 million. I think maybe a couple times it's been greater than 5. And then the final slide here, actually no, that's not the final slide. No, it is. Sorry, is investment income. So as the comptroller stated before, this has been a kind of a collaboration between my office, where the decisions on where to invest the money are made, and her office on helping me best manage the cash flow so we can maximize the amount of money out there. Between the interest or the increased rates that we've been seeing in the market, especially through a program that one of her previous staffers had brought to us that kind of opened our portfolio a little bit more. Between that and alongside other things like the American Rescue Plan funds that we had sitting in our bank account while we were setting up the process to figure out the disbursement, you can see we're projecting by a large margin the greatest interest income ever earned by Albany County this year. That is forecast to reduce next year to about somewhere between 7 and 8 million is my guess. Again, as you guys have seen with me over the past few years, I try to be very conservative on our revenue. To circle back to the remaining questions kind of posed before the meeting, one of the questions was about a grant specialist in our office. That actually is not a new position. That was created in 2023 via an RLA. That position is responsible for working with the grants coordinator. As the deputy said before, we've been standing up a kind of countywide grants team in management and budget to help us try to get as much grant funding as possible, kind of as the state keeps throwing all these unfunded mandates at us. We need to get creative and find other sources of funds to pay for these things. Otherwise, it's going to have to go on the taxpayers, or we're going to have to cut programs that benefit our citizens. Another thing I wanted to get into is the FMAP, which is the Federal Medical Assistance Program. You've probably heard the county exec talk about this a few times. It's been a big issue. We've actually been talking to Senator Schumer's office a few times on this, trying to change the way it was being handled. But what it is federal dollars were traditionally used to match state expenditures on Medicaid and certain other social services. The enhanced FMAP, as it was referred to, as a subset of all those programs, where we had been receiving 2 additional streams of money from the feds to offset our Medicaid spending. One of those was the COVID FMAP, which we knew was going to sunset as the country kind of came out of the pandemic. The other was the American CARES Act FMAP, and that one was kind of seen as it was going to go into perpetuity. I don't even know when it started. It was far before my time in budget. The decision by New York State was that it is now being intercepted by New York State, and it pays their share of the bills, leaving us with an about $8.2 million hole every year going forward. So that is budgeted in here. It is all taken care of. Another question you guys had was on healthcare and retiree healthcare. You're going to see increases in both those categories countywide. A lot of that has to do with the additional benefits authorized both in last year's and this year's budget. Every once in a while you'll hear the county exec talk about how he's trying to push more, better benefit for eyeglasses, a better benefit for hearing aids, things along those lines. Depending on our different providers, things like that, it's been different ramp-up times, but that plus the increased cost of living, those numbers, they always go up. So we budgeted for all of it. It's a balanced budget, it's a good budget, and I hope you guys don't have too many questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I appreciate it.
Mr. Grimm?
All right, the tax levy remains the same for third year in a row.
Yes, sir.
And you got a 10% tax cut. Those are 2 home runs. There's no doubt about it. I do have some questions, though. By my read, that we're using some of the fund balance, 23 million, to fund spending. And we haven't done that before. In fact, we've worked so hard, to build up that fund balance. So
Yep.
why was that decision made then?
So a big part of that was literally due to that conservative budgeting that we were talking about before. I budgeted sales tax so low in the 2023 budget that there's a bit of a surplus sitting there. This is not going to wipe that surplus out. This is just along the lines of the fund balance policy where we bring ideas to the legislature, figure out the best way to handle that. Kind of as I stated before, we tried to utilize that portion of the budget, that fund balance, on those one-time, or could be one-time expenditures. If the revenue stays, we can keep funding them. If the revenue drops off and they're not a current priority, it's a lot easier to cut a discretionary, economic development stream versus having to lay off 20, 30 employees.
I have total confidence in you and Dan McCoy, but my concerns with the state. They just confiscated $8 million for our Medicaid money. And they're looking at big deficits. How are we able to prepare if they start taking some of the state money back? Because we rely so much on state money.
Yeah, no, and that's why that's one of the numbers that's included in that packet that I put together. I think we're uniquely positioned in a very good way here. Our retail has continued very, very strong, whereas for years, even before COVID, everyone kept crying, the sky is falling, everything's going to internet sales, you're going to lose your brick and mortar, and Albany County's going to lose the money, it's going to go to the surrounding areas. Now, while the surrounding areas have increased, we haven't dropped off. And whether that's, based on different demographics here, higher income levels, these spending rates, while they may ebb off a little bit, nationally and locally, it doesn't seem like it's going to drop off a cliff at all. So having the sales tax be such a big part of our budget versus the state having a property tax is a big advantage for us.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
Just one out of curiosity more than anything. The tobacco revenue, why is it some years 5 million and 4 million? What's it based on?
It's based on literally down to the number of cigarettes sold.
Just New York State?
I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that, whether it's a New York State number and then how it's rationed out, or if it's a federal number. But I can look that up.
Okay.
Can I, question relative to that?
Okay.
Just a quick question relative to that. Does that end?
No, it goes in perpetuity.
Okay, very good.
Now, it was forecasted to drop off much quicker than it has.
Yeah.
The logic being is as the taxes on cigarettes keep increasing, society smokes less.
But it's a good thing that we didn't securitize back in the year
Yes.
2000.
Hindsight's 20/20, that's great.
I was the chairman of that task force, and I feel good with our decision.
I say, yeah, I applaud that.
Good for you. Good way to go.
Well, there was people a lot smarter than me to help make that decision, but we did have a choice.
While the rest are contemplating. So no funding for enhanced pay lines for multiple departments. Is this program ending?
No, so what that was is, the enhanced pay lines in the county are used for different things in different departments. Like the public defender's office has a grant program where if the attorneys show up to do an arraignment on a town court on a weeknight, they get a flat rate of a couple $100 or whatever it is. Other departments, it's been used for staff kind of working at a title, taking on job responsibilities when somebody else has left, that they still needs to be covered in the office, to be able to compensate them for that. A lot of the enhanced pay lines in 2023 were utilized and had never appeared in department budgets before because they were to settle the union contracts for the back pay, or the signing bonuses, sorry.
All right, do I have any other questions from any members of the legislature? Mr. Bill?
Yeah, Dave, on page 61 of the budget book is the exemption impact report.
Yep.
I have some specific questions I can follow up with you later, but can you just tell me what the difference between a system exemption and a non-system exemption?
I received this report directly from our Director of Real Property Tax Service, and I'm gonna put that question off to him.
Okay.
And if you have any other questions, if you wanna shoot me a line, we can just ask them all in bulk.
Any other questions?
I have a general question.
Okay.
So, it's the same question I was going to ask you guys, so I'll just ask you now. Why, is it a longevity issue, or why does the DAN weigh more than the county executive?
Hold on, what was it?
What is it?
The DA salary.
The DA's salary is set by state
Set
law.
by state.
It's state law, he gets a percentage of what a state judge makes.
Very good. Was that your question?
That helps.
Very good, thank you so much. All right. If that's it, I want to thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
See us Wednesday?
Yeah, we gotta.
Second.